You're listening to The Financial Plan, brought to you by Vim Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. The content on this show is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered personalized investment advice or a recommendation to buy or sell any securities. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. For guidance on your specific situation, consult a qualified financial professional.
Welcome to The Financial Plan. My name is Jorge Tijerino. I've spent over 20 years in the financial services industry, and every week I answer the questions that keep you up at night. Let's get to work. So the first question here comes from Doug. He is 58 from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've got about 22 years left on a mortgage at 6.5%. I also have around $900 a month I could throw at either principal or put it into my brokerage account. My buddy says that paying off the house early is the dumbest thing you can do because you can beat 6.5% in the market. My wife says she's sleepy at her at night with no mortgage. Who is right? Now, the hard part of this question is that they're both right. They're both right in different ways, and they're probably looking at it in a different light here. This is probably the question I get asked the most when it comes to any financial questions I get. Should I pay off my mortgage? Should I not pay off my mortgage? Now, this question is a little bit more difficult in your case because the mortgage is at 6.5%. In 2020 and 2021, where mortgages were at 3% and 4%, that's a very, very easy question to answer. And the answer to that question is no, never pay off that mortgage because it's basically free money when you look at it in the financial terms. At 6.5%, you're kind of at that point where it's going to get a little difficult to make the math work. Your buddy is telling you the truth in the sense that you can make more money in the market otherwise if you just, again, not a recommendation, but if you just buy the SPY, the S&P 500, if you look at the historical average of that, you're going to make better money there. So while this isn't really a simple question to answer, you really have to think about the implications of what it is that you're doing. A lot of people think that having a mortgage paid off is a good thing because they no longer have that debt on their side. I look at it a little different way. If you have, let's say, $10,000 saved up, right? And that $10,000 is earning you, 10% a year. If you were to take that money and put it into your mortgage and pay it down, obviously you're losing some money there because you can be earning 10%, but you're only paying off a debt that is giving that, you're losing 6.5% on. Now, a big portion of this and something that I think a lot of people don't see that I speak to is that having liquid money is important, right? And having that stability or that safety net of having money in your brokerage account that you can touch is great. If your house is paid off and your house is worth $1 million and you have a medical emergency and no cash, that $1 million in your house is completely useless to you, right? So when you think about it in that way, or let's say you want to buy, start a business or whatever the case may be, you need cash for something, all that equity in your home is completely worthless. And it's not worthless because you can go and get a HELOC and all that, or get some, then get another mortgage on the house. But then you're just kind of redoing the same thing over and over again. So I am always on the side of never pay off your mortgage. Just continue to pay it as, however long it needs to get paid. And I would rather have the money on my side than have it invested in my home. Hope that helps. All right, next question comes from Wes. He is 34 in Boise, Idaho. I work in tech and my RSUs have done really well over the last 4 years, and I'm sure they have. I ran the numbers last month and about 55% of everything my wife and I own is in my employer's stock. I know that's a lot, but it's also the reason why we have any money at all. And honestly, I think the company is going to keep growing. Am I being smart or am I being stupid? The answer to that question is yes. You're being both. This is a tough one. And again, something I see a lot, especially people that work for major corporations, a lot of their net worth is tied up in the company, whether it be company stock like yours or, X, Y, and Z. Here's the problem. you are, how they tell you not to put your eggs in one basket. All your eggs are in one basket. And while you can continue to think the company is doing what, you don't say which company it is. And honestly, it doesn't really matter in that sense that you don't know what can happen with that company, right? And that is a lot of confidence you're putting in that one building. If we did this in another way, if I was able to take all that value out of it and give it to you in cash, would you put 55% of your whole net worth into one company stock? The answer to that question is probably not. I would assume you wouldn't. So yeah, I would rethink this, and I know it's very difficult. What I usually do with my clients that have concentrated positions in this is to just start selling it off. I'm sure you own a lot of RSUs in here that are, or now that are actual stock that you have huge gains on. So you do have to take this. This is a long process, right? This is not something that you're just going to go in there and sell everything, because you're going to get a gigantic bill at the end of the year. So you need to work, either do it yourself or work with a professional like myself that can look at all your tax lots and come up with a plan to make sure that you're doing it in the correct way possible, and just start taking some risk off the table. You don't have to sell all of it. There's no reason to sell all of it. You're going to continue getting these RSUs, so it's not like you're selling out of it and not participating in any growth, but you are going to diversify your risk, and I think that's very, very important. Remember, your paycheck, your insurance, your retirement, everything is coming from that one place, and you do need to slowly start. Next question is from Carmen in Albuquerque. She is 45. The market is at record highs again. Every time I open my app, it's another all-time high. I have about $40,000 from selling my late father's truck and settling his estate, and I keep telling myself if I invest now, I keep telling myself I'll invest it when things pull back. It's been sitting there since February. Am I being careful or am I being scared? Again, back to the previous question, I think you're being both. First and foremost, my sympathies go out to you and your family at this time. I know it's hard losing somebody close. So what you're doing is trying to time the market. And that very, very, very rarely works out. I think as investors, we have this backwards where we think if markets are making all-time highs, that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That means the market is doing well. That means that investors are optimistic about what's going on in the market. That means that earnings are that are doing well as well. And yeah, there's no reason not to do it. And if I flip it on its head, and if we're being honest here, if we do get a 10, 15% pullback, I know what you're going to say. Oh, now is not the right time because the market's going down. I'll wait till it starts picking back up. And then you continue to do this cycle until you never invest. So yeah, I don't think there's a reason to wait. Now, should you be putting all the money in? That's more of a financial planning question, an asset allocation question. You're not giving me enough details here to give you that answer. So, you got to figure out what you need to do and make sure that you're investing the money properly as well. Make sure that you have some cash savings on the sideline in case of any emergencies. And if you do want to sort of time the market in a way where you're not really timing the market, you can do dollar cost averaging, where you pick a certain amount. Let's say you are going to invest all $40,000. Let's say $5,000 a week. So every Friday or every Monday or every Wednesday, whenever you can or whenever you want, you buy $5,000 of whatever it is that you're buying until you reach that $40,000. That'll allow you to kind of sort of ride the wave a little bit, where if things are a little higher, you'll buy less. If things are a little lower, you'll buy more. So that is, that's the point that I want to get across. There's no good time to get in the market. The best time is right now. And I wanted to leave you with a note. Since 1960, the S&P 500 has set 1,195 record closes, right? So this is going to happen a lot, and this is good. It's a good thing. We want the market to continue going up. We don't want it to go down. So stop waiting and just get to it. Next question comes from Brianna in Milwaukee. Slightly embarrassing question. I've had 5 jobs since 2011, and I think I have a 401k at 4 of them. I know where 2 of them are. I have no idea about the other 2. One was at a company that got bought. Where does that money even go? Or am I supposed to be doing something with all of these? Yeah. So Brianna from Milwaukee, first and foremost, as a Miami Heat fan, thank you for Giannis. And yes, you are supposed to do something with them. Definitely. Listen, this can be very stressful, especially if you don't know what you're doing, what to do with these. There are a couple of different options here. So the ones that you do know, you have 3 options for what to do with this money. You can roll it over into your current 401k. Okay. That's a pretty simple process. The process is going to be the same pretty much with all of these. You will contact the company that the old 401k is at and tell them, hey, I want to roll over the money. You're either going to roll it over into a 401k, right? So your current 401k where you're at. You can roll it over into an IRA. So you would open up an IRA at Fidelity, at Schwab, with a financial advisor like myself, whatever you want to do there. Or you can just cash the money out. So let's talk about the pros and cons of each one. Rolling it over to your 401k is probably the easiest one because there's only going to be one account that you have to worry about. The cons of that is you have very limited investment choices. Usually in a 401k, you're going to get, maybe 10 to 20 different mutual funds, maybe some ETFs in there that you have an option for, and that's about it. There could be some hidden fees and plan fees associated with it. It's very hard without actually looking at the plan to know what those things are, but that could be the option. Let's talk about the IRA. The pros of this is that the world is your oyster at that point. You can invest in literally anything you want because that IRA is free to buy anything you want to buy. Now, while that is a pro, it's also a con, right? You need to have some sort of knowledge of what you want to buy and what you need to do. Depending on the amount, it could be beneficial to speak to a financial advisor like myself so that they can help you figure out what to invest in and figure out what the best situation is for you. And then the last option is to just take the money out and, go to Vegas or whatever. That option, also obviously the pros is that you get the money right now. You don't have to wait till you're 65 or 67 or 59. And the con is that you're going to get taxed on that money. Not only are you going to get taxed at ordinary income, you're also going to have a penalty on top of that. So you can be talking about somewhere between 20 and 25% and up of penalties and taxes. So those are the 3 different options. Now, you mentioned that there's only 2 of them that you know where they are. Now, that becomes a little bit more difficult. If you don't know where they are, there's a couple of different routes you can take. Try to find some old statements. Try to find some old emails about these. The Department of Labor has an abandoned plan database that you can look at. There's also the new retirement. There's a federal retirement savings and like lost and found type thing that they have. If the company is still active, go ahead and call the HR of the old company. They'll be able to tell you where the money is at. And if that doesn't help, try the state unclaimed property database, which you can just Google and you'll be able to find it. But that's about it. If I had to choose one of the options, I think my preferred option if you're okay with doing a little bit of research and managing the money yourself, I think transferring over to the IRA is probably your best bet on that sense. But on the other side, if you just want simplicity. Next question. We just had our baby 6 weeks ago. I've gotten about 100 pieces of advice, 529 plans, life insurance. Some guy at work told me to open up a custodial brokerage account for her. My mother-in-law wants us to buy savings bonds. I'm running on 4 hours of sleep. Can you just tell me what actually matters right now and what can wait? Amanda is 30 and in Omaha. Amanda is a father of 2 children. I know what this feels like, and it'll end at some point. The sleepless nights hopefully will end for you shortly. This is a very, very, crazy time in your life. Any of you who have had children know how insane these first, kind of 6 months are of having a child. So let me just give you what I would recommend right now, and then what can wait, which is obviously what your question is. The first step is making sure that the baby is protected, and by that I mean you having life insurance. Remember, this new child is your responsibility for at least the next 18 years of their life, right? They have no way of protecting themselves. So making sure that you have life insurance on yourself is the most important part. Term life insurance, especially at 30 years old, is very cheap. We're talking about, it might not even reach $100 a month for a decent life insurance policy on you. Don't quote me on that, but it should be in that range, and that would protect the baby in case something were to happen to you. How much you should have is dependent on a lot of different situations. It depends on your lifestyle, and there's a lot that goes into it. So I need to have some more information to be able to give you a number that would make sense. But that is number one. Make sure that they are protected in case something were to happen to you. Step number 2 is documents. Make sure you have a will in place. A will is very important because it leaves, there's no ambiguity to it. You say who takes care of the baby in case something were to happen to you or your spouse, your partner, your whatever. So make sure that is in place. That's very important. And if something were to happen to you, you don't want to be left, or the people behind don't want to be left with this, oh my God, what did she want? What's the right thing to do here? You have it right there, black and white. This doesn't have to be anything crazy. Obviously, going to an attorney would be the right thing, but it doesn't need to be. You can just write something out, sign it, have a notary, and somebody as a witness to do that for you. So those two are the number one and the 2 priorities. The number 3 would be make sure you have enough cash savings to make sure that in case something were to happen, you are, you have some cash on your side to, in case any emergencies come up. Babies can be really cheap or really expensive depending on things that happen. So just make sure you're protected. I would say 3 to 6 months of emergency savings is great. And then once that kind of settles down and you're okay, then we can talk about the 529s, the custodial accounts. There are pros and cons to both of them. I won't really get into them at this point because, there's a lot of things going on. Of the 2, again, they both have their pros and cons, and that's a question for another episode. But I think those 3 things are the most important. Get yourself some life insurance. It's cheap. It's cheap insurance in that sense. Make sure documentation is in place, and make sure that a guardian is set up, and they also know that not only they know, but they are willing to do this. And make sure you have a cash cushion just in case something were to happen. Those 3 are probably the most important. All right, and the last question here. I have about $60,000 sitting in my checking account, and I know that's dumb. I've noticed dumb for probably about 3 years. Part of it is that I don't want to lock it up in case something happens with my job. Part of it, I just never got around to do it. What should I actually be doing with it? Hector 52 from Fresno. All right. So the first step to having a problem is admitting you have a problem, and you have admitted it there. What should you do is a very difficult question to answer, right? I'm going to make some assumptions, and please don't take this as gospel because I don't know what your exact situation is. First and foremost, have about 3 and 6 months of emergency in a checking or savings account. That is enough. Anything more than that needs to be invested. Now, how it should be invested? By invested, I mean not being in cash or a savings account. That doesn't mean go and put it all in X or YZ stock. It just means that it should be growing at a faster clip than cash is. Hopefully, you said this is a checking account. If you want to take one step further, you can put it into one of these high yield savings accounts that is paying, roughly 3.5-4% right now, which is a decent return, but you could be doing better in the market. If you are comfortable with the risks that are associated with the market, go ahead and dip your toe, buy something like, again, not a recommendation, buy something like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ and see how that goes. You can, this fear or whatever it is completely normal, right? Nobody is, this fear of you losing your job is always going to be there, right? We never know what's going to happen, but we can't let that fear affect us from doing what is the correct thing to be done. The correct thing to be done is for this money to be invested so that it's growing and working for you instead of just sitting in cash. Just open up the account and just start transferring money in there. You don't have to dump all the money in at once. Like I said earlier in the episode, do dollar cost averaging, whatever it is that you're comfortable with. If you don't want to do a huge lump sum, take $2,500 a week and invest it in whatever ETF or whatever mutual fund that you think is right for you, and just start buying it every other week or every week. And eventually that money is going to grow, and you're going to see how it works out. You're going to have a feel for it, and I think that's the right way of doing it. Sometimes you just got to jump off the deep end and start swimming, right? There's no easy way to do it. And listen, don't beat yourself up. A lot of people are in your shoes, and the right thing is just getting started. Stop feeling sorry for yourself, or stop beating yourself up, and just do what needs to be done, and let's just get it done. All right, everyone, that's all the questions for this week. Please join me next week where we have another round of questions. Thank you.